What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the juice. We got it done. We're going to talk about all the baits, rods, reels, lines, patterns, fisheries, all about the team series event, the Challenge Cup from Erie, Pennsylvania. So if you guys have been following the channel, you guys know we've been talking about this event for a while, really since it's been announced about 30 days ago. I've been super excited about this event, knowing it was going to Erie, Pennsylvania. Fisheries that I was familiar with, and it's not often that you can get the job done on some home water, but we did it. Spencer and I got the Challenge Cup trophy. So super fun week, awesome experience in Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie is a special place to me, and this really just added to it. But this is the juice, so welcome to the juice. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We have been pumping out 3 videos a week. We've been slacking a little bit over the last week or so. We just kind of got, that busy month finally caught up with us, and we just didn't have enough content in the bank. But we're gonna get back on track here soon. We finally made it back home. But this is the juice. It's presented by Fish USA. So all the tackle, rods, reels, equipment, everything we're about to talk about is available at Fish USA. And Fish USA is a huge online tackle retailer. They got everything you could ever need for fishing, not just bass fishing, but fishing in general. And it's even more special that their headquarters there in Erie, Pennsylvania. We got to hang out with them, the week of the event. And I feel like this one was just as much for them as it was for us. So, appreciate you guys checking out Fish USA as always. Another thing, we got the shirts. So if you guys want to check out and get any merch, I believe the shirt's still on the website, right, Brittany?
Yeah.
It's on the website. So if you want to check these out, you can pick up a shirt, support the, the Brownie Boys over at MBeckerFishing.com. It's on the website if you want to pick up a shirt or even a hat, any sort of merch we have over there. Appreciate you guys checking that out. But with all that being said, let's dive in and kind of break down the event. We fished 3 days. So we're going to kind of go through day by day and kind of walk you through the baits, patterns, equipment, all that kind of stuff that we use to bring home the Challenge Cup. Okay, so we arrive in Erie, Pennsylvania immediately after the St. Lawrence Toyota Series event. We drove after the day 3 weigh-in, got there late at night, and had the next day to rig tackle. So we're sitting there in the boatyard rigging up tackle, and I'm kind of going through my mind on what fisheries we could potentially go to in the area. The cool thing about the team series is you don't find out where you're fishing until the morning of. You literally walk out of the hotel, you meet at the lobby of the hotel, and you get in the truck, and the boat official drives you and launches you wherever you're going for that day. So you don't know where you're going until that morning when you pull into the boat ramp and they hand you the map of the playing field. So, pack and tackle is the hardest part of this entire format. You want to make sure you got a wide range of things, but at the end of the day, you really want to keep things simple, especially for me. I really like keeping things simple. There's a handful of baits that will catch bass all over the country, but especially on those lakes up there. And, with the every fish counts format, covering a lot of water and getting in good productive areas is super key. So our first day of competition, we pull into Lampe Marina, a place I'm very familiar with. It's a boat launch it's actually on the lake side of Erie, but they hand us a paper map and they tell us that, we're restricted to Presque Isle Bay only. The kind of off limits is right there at the chute. So immediately, I'm starting to think about areas where we can go fish, catch some largemouth. I know the predominant cover is going to be grass. There's grass all throughout the bay, but I had a few areas in mind where there was a little bit of rock underneath the grass. So immediately I'm thinking we're going to be catching them flipping this grass and, probably winding a chatterbait or a, jerkbait or something, depending on how the grass is growing. So, we kind of get out there and, as we're launching the boats, we start hearing, a crackle of thunder in the distance. So there's a little bit of a storm moving in, and with that storm, it brought a bunch of clouds. So that kind of changed things, kind of threw us a curveball there that first day that it really ignited those fish early in that morning. They were feeding heavily on little tiny bait fish. So, we pull into our first little area. I start flipping with a tube. It's just a bait I have a lot of confidence in. I know I'm going to catch some bass if I'm just flipping around a little tube. Throwing a couple different little baits, but I just started flipping around a tube. I got a 3/4 ounce Epic tungsten flipping weight on there, Epic peg on there. I was throwing it on 20 pounds Seagar fluorocarbon, and then an EWG style hook. But I was just throwing a couple different tubes, 3.5, 4-inch tube, just kind of Texas rigging it like this. And it's a bait that it doesn't have a whole lot of action. It just kind of glides down into the, into the grass, into the rock, whatever it may be, and it just gets bites. So I knew if I flipped this around that I was just gonna get some bites. So I picked up the tube first, and it didn't take long. I get a bite on the tube, get a couple bites here and there, but Spencer picked up a chatterbait to start his day, and he started catching them pretty good, and he found a couple little groups of fish. So we kind of knew that they were biting that chatterbait early on in that morning. So I followed suit and picked up a chatterbait as well. I had 2 different chatterbaits. I always like to have contrasting colors on the deck. If they're feeding on shad, I want to have a white color. If they want more of a bluegill or a darker presentation, I got a green pumpkin one. So I had 2 different chatterbaits out on the deck. Spencer was throwing more of the green pumpkin style, so I was like, well, I'm gonna throw something a little bit different, and went with the shad color here. But really, we kind of got on that bite pretty early, and then we just kind of ran with that the rest of the day. And really, the chatterbait and the tube really accounted for the bulk of our weight there on the first day. We just kind of bounced around a few different areas. I think Spencer flipped a jig a little bit, maybe caught a couple on a drop shot, but the bulk of our fish came on the chatterbait and the tube there that first day. Let me see if I got the packages here. Now, like I said, the tackle is an issue. This is the messiest my boat has been all year long, just because you had to pack and go into different boats. So this is one of the tubes I used. I found these when we were actually at the James River at one of the tournaments. So it's just a, kind of a local branded tube. I just kind of like the color of it. It's a 3.5-inch tube. And then, I was flipping the little big bite baits tube as well. I kind of like that little color, a little bit smaller profile. It's kind of got a smoke purple tail with a green pumpkin body. So I'd flip that one around. I'd flip, this one here is a little bit darker for when it was cloudier. It's almost more of a black and blue body with green pumpkin tails. But, really I was just mixing it up and flipping, a few different tubes there. And then throwing the chatterbait as well. But the key with the chatterbait, let's see if I got them here, was the small little trailer. My stuff's all a mess, but there's a couple. So, they were feeding on really small little bait fish. So the key was throwing a nice small little trailer. And that right there, that's the 3-inch Zako, 3-inch Yamamoto Zako. So when you pair him up on the chatterbait, it really shortens up the profile. If you put a big bulky trailer on there, it's a much bigger bait. And when they're feeding on those smaller bait fish, I always want a smaller profile bait. So that was the key for me on the chatterbait, was putting that smaller trailer on there. So I had a green pumpkin and more of a white and shad color. Maybe I used a couple different colors. I think I used the rainbow shad and the sight flash and the green pumpkin for my trailers. But that was super key on the chatterbait side of things, using the right trailer to match those small little bait fish. So we had a pretty good day. We caught us 88 pounds the first day of competition on Prescal Bay. It was good enough for second place. Stephen Browning and Gagliardi, they caught them pretty good. They had 110 pounds of bass there that first day, and they ended up winning the day. We finished second, but luckily, you only needed to finish second to move on to the next round. The top 2 out of 4 moved on. The bottom 2 were eliminated from the event. So we finished second. We moved on to knockout round number 2. So there was 2 different knockout rounds to qualify you for the championship round. So we had a day off. Actually, we had 2 days off. Had 2 days off, and then we, starting to get ready for the knockout round. So I kind of figured that we wouldn't go back to the bay. We'd probably go to a new fishery, and I'm kind of running through my mind what's close by. I had Conneaut in my mind, Edinburgh Lake, and even Chautauqua. I knew Chautauqua was pretty close by. It's a little bit bigger lake. I figured, potentially they could be saving that for the championship round, but lo and behold, that's where we end up for the knockout round, is Chautauqua Lake. And again, we get there, arrive at the boat ramp in the morning, and it's a foggy, dreary day. So different conditions again. I really expected to when we pulled into Chautauqua, I know it's a very famous dock lake. The lake is lined with docks. So, I was hoping for sunshine, because we could have just fished boat docks all day and done really well. But, we arrived there, and, it's just matted with fog. There's a big cloud basically covering the whole lake. So I kind of figured we would have to, spend our morning up on the northern end of the lake, looking at some of those shoals and some of the shallower areas up there, because those fish had probably pushed up shallow and feeding on bait fish and perch and whatnot. And that's exactly what we found. So we kind of used our ride around to look at a few areas on the way up, but ended up starting way up on the north end of the lake. And man, it was a little slow for me to start, I'm not gonna lie, but I was trying to force the flipping bite. I was fishing more the edge of this shoal, seeing if any fish were tucked down in that grass, but it didn't take long. Spencer picked up a topwater and was throwing up on top of this little shoal. He got to catching them pretty quick. So we found some pretty big smallmouth there and some largemouth mixed in, and ended up having a really good first period on a couple different baits in this one little area. So for me, let's see, all tangled up here. Once I seen Spencer get a couple bites on a topwater, it didn't take me long to pull out and tie on my own topwater. So that's what I did here. I got one of my favorite baits. It's a knock and spook, and tied him on, started catching a few fish on him. I caught a couple on the ChatterBait as well. And we really having a fun morning, catching some big fish, throwing topwater, throwing a ChatterBait around. And then, we kind of honed in a little zone where those fish were really set up. They seemed to be sitting in one particular little area. So that's when we started slowing down, and we picked up, a wacky worm Cinco. I knew in the back of my mind we were going to catch him on this bait at some point today, whether it was on the docks or, in the grass somewhere. But we found this one little area where he had a couple bites on a different topwater. So I was like, I'm gonna pick up this wacky worm. And that really put a lot of fish in the boat for me towards the end of that first period. So this is just a watermelon. I think it's just, straight watermelon, not even watermelon black flag, just straight watermelon, 5-inch Yamamoto Cinco. Got a little O-ring on there just to help keep the bait from casting off. And then my favorite little wacky worm hook, that's the Trocar finesse hook, TK137, number 2 size. So I went with that right there. Then I put 12-pound leader. I put a little bit heavier line on there than you typically would throw on a spinning rod, because I'd planned on throwing this around the boat docks, all the steel on the boat dock. So I went with heavier line, and it ended up benefiting me, because a lot of those fish would get down in the grass once you hooked them. But caught quite a few fish on the wacky worm there as well. And really, we just had a great fun day in the knockout round. We got out to a big lead early, and we could really just kind of, have a relaxed afternoon. We caught some more on topwater, caught some more on the wacky worm, caught some more flipping a tube. And then we just kind of started expanding, working our way around the lake, having a good time. And I knew I wanted to catch some on a jig around the boat dock. So I pulled out a new rod that I had rigged up, if I could get it out of there, that I had my new jig from Epic Baits on there. So we went to flipping some docks and, kind of finished out the day flipping around the jig. So this is the new Epic, it's a tungsten jig, little finesse jig, real small little profile. And, it's got that little flat spot on there. It helps it skip and helps it stand up when it hits the bottom. And just had a great day fishing around, fishing some docks, and kind of closed out the day. Ended up winning the knockout round. And from there, we felt good. We were fishing good, had some momentum, heading into the championship round. So we get back from Chautauqua, we re-rig, we regroup. You know, in my mind, you know, I'm thinking, okay, we fished Presque Isle Bay, we fished Chautauqua. The next option has got to be either out in Lake Erie for smallmouth, or, you know, outside the Presque Isle Bay, out into the big Lake Erie, or Conneaut. Those were the two things that were running through my mind. And really, they threw us a big curveball. So we get there in the morning for the championship round. We pull back into Lampe Marina. So as soon as we pulled in there, my gut's like, well, we're going smallmouth fishing today. You know, we're going to go out in the big lake and, you know, try and find some smallmouth. But they hand us the paper map, and we're back in Presque Isle Bay. So fishing the same waters that we fished for the qualifying round. And I knew we had at that point, I knew we had a pretty good shot. You know, I know the bay pretty well, and I really didn't get to fish a lot of the stuff I wanted to fish in the qualifying round, just because we were just so focused on just catching enough fish to move on. So, you know, we pulled out more of the same baits. You know, we kind of had an idea of what we needed to do from qualifying day one. So we pulled out the chatterbaits, pulled out the tube, and really got to work. So the first period was probably our slowest period. We were just kind of maintaining. You know, we were sitting in second, third place for most of the period. And then really the second period is when we made our move. You know, we were kind of fishing new water that we hadn't fished yet that week, and you know, just fishing along the grass line. We were flipping. I was flipping a tube. Spencer was flipping a jig. And one key thing happened, and this is a good lesson for everybody out there who tournament fishes, is you got to be aware of your surroundings. So there was a lot of gar popping in the area, hitting the surface, but you know, just inside this weed line that we were flipping, a fish come up and boiled. And Spencer noticed it immediately. It was like, that was not a gar, that was a bass. So he flipped his jig kind of, you know, a good ways inside this grass line and just started swimming it, and that fish bit it. He missed it and flipped back in there and caught one. But that was a key moment in our day, you know, that we could have just ignored, blown right by, and maybe fished right through the winning area. But after seeing that, you know, he got that bite. I think as he's weighing his fish, I pick up my chatterbait, throw out there and get another bite. And then from there, it was pretty much mayhem for the next couple hours to end the second period into the third period, where there was a bunch of fish pushed up shallower in this grass that were feeding on real small bait fish. And we caught a bunch of fish on the chatterbaits there. And Spencer caught some on a topwater. We caught a couple on a wacky worm again. Man, we just caught a bunch of fish there, and it ended up being enough to get the job done and take home the Challenge Cup, the first ever two-man team out of the same boat in Major League Fishing history. So that's something, that's a piece of history, you know, that you can never take away from us. So super excited about that. And man, it was a great time. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what you thought about the team series in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about the entire event, the live stream. You know, I feel like it was a pretty good time. I know it was fun for us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We had the whole peanut gallery following us with the big heads, and I know they had a ton of fun as well. So it's a really cool format, and I'm excited to get after them again. Spencer and I will be teamed up again for the Summit Cup in November. So we'll be fishing again together in November. So that's really the next tournament on the schedule for me. But in the meantime, we made it back home. Planning on bringing you guys a bunch of great content this fall, fishing around the house, and hopefully, you know, catching a few more bass this fall. So appreciate you guys. As always, leave me those likes and comments down below. Don't forget, hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time.